And we are recording.
Yeah, I think it defaults. All right. Welcome, everyone. I'm Karen Richardson. I'm the Executive Director of the Virginia Society for Technology and Education. Happy Digital Learning Day 2020. It has become the VSTE tradition on Digital Learning Day to feature our award winners from the December conference. Last year, we were thrilled to recognize 3 technology coaches of the year. These are folks who are in instructional technology positions or specifically coaching positions, but working directly with adults and technology and integration, which is very much the focus of VSTE these days. We love kids, and as I was chatting with the group talking about the Roanoke Mini Maker Fair, it features kids. We love working with the students, but our audience is primarily folks who also then work with adults and help them figure out the importance of technology and integrating it and how it can impact student learning and the culture and climate of a school. So we've got 3 winners from this year, and we're going to give each of them some time to introduce themselves, talk a little bit about their passion, talk a little bit about the kinds of things that they're doing that maybe are innovative or exciting with technology integration. And then ultimately the goal is to have a conversation amongst those of us in the room. So, Tina, I just spent the weekend with Tina Coffey at the Roanoke Mini Maker Fair, and I am getting old, so senior moments happen, my friend. But Tonya Coffey from Augusta County is the first of our Technology Coach of the Year award winners. So, Tonya, take some time to tell us a little about yourself, your passions, what kinds of things are going on in Augusta County. And you are muted, Tonya. There you go. There you go. Perfect.
There we go. I started out as a teacher in Augusta County as a 4th grade teacher, went to a 3rd grade teacher, then became an ITRT. This is my 6th year as an instructional technology resource teacher. My passion is connecting the classroom to communities. Some projects I've been working on recently is a Maker Monday, where I plan a Monday evening for parents to come with their kids, and we begin with an activity, have a snack, a read aloud. I'm connecting it to literature, and then we have some sort of design. I did 5 of those, pretty good turnout. I just recently got some feedback from a Google survey, and they all want more. So they want me to have, like, they're disappointed that the Maker Monday ended, and they're asking for them to come back. So super excited about that. One I'm currently working on that is going to connect not just our schools, but also hope to build it into the community is called Connecting the Classroom. I am working now with a group of 3rd grade students. I end up getting 15 people in the county that works for the county, kind of like a social worker, director of technology, supervisors. I have 15 of them that are willing to do online interviews with my students, and they have to guess who they are. So pretty cool. They have to come up with some questions, requires lots of critical thinking. Let's see. So I'm very passionate about the whole community and getting the kids to know more about the community and seeing what's out there for them. I am also working on my 3rd annual Stream Night. It's not STEAM, it's not STEM, but Stream. We end up putting the R in there to have our book fair. We have our art show, and then we added STEM. So this year's theme is called Glow Crazy. And each year that I've organized it, it's just kept getting bigger and bigger. For this event, I end up getting Valley Votech, which is provides adults and students trades. So if you're not in pursuit of a college, they offer trades such as HVAC or even cooking, dental assistant, cosmetology. So they're going to come and show the kids what they have to offer. I reached out to some community members, such as like Dominion, Virginia, an orthodontics, a solar company. So I have several community outreach coming in, showing the students some STEM positions in this area that they could pursue. And of course, you know, I'm adding all things glow in the dark for the kids. Some glow in the dark slime, some glow in the dark bowling with some dash robots, and some glow in the dark painting with some Spheros. And so lots of stuff going on. As for coaching, I believe in giving teachers lots of experience to master the technology, lots of vicarious, I guess if you're looking at theories, it's called Vandover's self-efficacy theory. So I'm really honed into my PD with that by giving them lots of chances to work with me to get comfortable with the technology. I provide lots of one-on-one with teachers. I do a lot of co-teaching. This year I'm reaching out to each of my teachers to do a plugged and an unplugged computer science lesson with each of them so that they can get familiar with the terminology. I do after school PD, I do boot camp. So I'm trying to reach all of them because every single teacher is different. So you're trying to provide different PD that meets all of their needs. So I'm going to start my first webinar in a couple weeks. I've never done an online webinar with my teachers before. So I'm reaching out with them and seeing if I can, you know, hook a couple of them with that too. So I'm always trying to get them to see that the learning's first, obviously, but technology can make it so much more efficient and enhance that learning. So that's it.
Well, that's great. I love the community approach as well, like getting parents in there and getting them excited about things. And there's certainly nothing more kind of gratifying when people go, "What do you mean there's no more Maker Mondays?" We love those. What are you going to do more of them? That's awesome. That's terrific.
I told them they'll be back next year.
Yeah, good
bigger
for you.
and better.
Yeah, right. Yeah, good for you. So thank you, Tonya. Katie Fielding is from Prince William County Public Schools. And Katie, go ahead. The microphone is yours, my friend.
Yeah, hi, I'm Katie. I've been an ITC, and we call them tech coaches in Prince William County, for 3 years now. Before that, I spent 13 years in the science classroom. So I've always been aligned with science and tech kind of sphere. Some of my real passions as far as ed tech and coaching, at my school in the 3 years that I've been there, just providing more digital equity for students. So we didn't have a lot of good access to some of the technology for students. So now just giving them more, we don't have one-to-one. So just giving them more opportunities before school and after school and in lab spaces to do some of their work outside of the classroom time. I also have a real passion for getting kids to be creating things. So when I'm working with teachers, like taking their lesson and working with them to make them move it towards students creating something rather than just responding to a prompt with just the direct content knowledge. So taking that content knowledge and creating. And then my biggest passion in my Google Innovator project is been based around improving homebound instruction for chronically ill students. So just talking with teachers one-to-one and also by presenting at conferences and just letting them understand what it's like to be a chronically ill student. I myself was one. I have cystic fibrosis. And just letting them know, you know, students are balancing the home, the hospital, and school. It's a lot to balance. And hopefully there are ways to use technology so that the teacher can connect more with that student.
So if you, this is probably bird walking already, but welcome to my world. So if you had any experience, we had one of those robots at the conference, the telepresence robots. Have you had any experiences with those?
We only have 2 in our district, so I don't have any experience with one at my school, but I know it can be hard, like in a high school, navigating the hallways.
Right.
Yeah, so the
Okay.
robot usually has to leave a little bit early and come a little bit late.
Yeah, it rolls along as
Yeah.
opposed to sort of walking side by side kind of thing. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, we had one early on, and then there was one at someone brought one to the conference this year, and it was fun. But I'm wondering, right, how
I
it
don't think it's for every
does
kid.
fit in.
Yeah, not
Right.
every kid wants to
Sure.
be pointed out. So it would be
Right.
for the kid that's okay with people knowing that they're home.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Sure. Balance everything. Okay. Great. Thank you. And so our last coach, but certainly not least, is Daniel Vanover. Daniel is from Wise County, Virginia. He is an ITRT down there and has been actively involved in a variety of VSTE events ongoing. And so Daniel, there you go. The microphone's yours. Tell us about
All right.
yourself, your passion, and what else you have to share.
All right. My name is Daniel Vanover. I am from Wise County Schools. I started out in the mathematics classroom about 13 years ago. And after 2 years in the math classroom, was contacted about becoming an ITRT and haven't looked back since. I absolutely love this tech coach role and the model that it presents, because it really kind of pushes toward my passion, and that is ensuring that people continue to learn. And ensuring that learning continues to go on, which really kind of drives part of some of the projects that I've been working on even recently. In the past couple of years, we've been at our middle school that I'm assigned to, LF Addington Middle School. We have started using Zoom and Google Meet for a video-based in-school suspension. And the whole premise behind that has been to really provide that direct instruction to students without having them causing that disruption in the classroom anymore. So if you got a student that is disrupting class, typically what we do, we send them out of class, they go to the office, they go to ISS, and they sit there and they work on worksheets while everybody else is learning. And while everybody else is continuing to learn, these kids have been taken out of the very thing that probably could make a difference in their lives. So we have started utilizing web conferencing from the teacher to that student during that time. So when the teacher is teaching and doing direct instruction, they'll typically have a webcam pointed to them, or they'll do a screen share that works either through Zoom. We used to use Google Meet, and then we had a few issues with Google Hangouts. So we've moved on to Zoom, which is pretty good. I mean, we're using it right now. But it really kind of helps those students to stay involved in the learning process without causing a disruption. The teacher can mute that student on the other end, unmute them when they have a question, and it really does work. And we know it works because the kids are saying they hate it because they still have to listen to the teacher. So it really, it's become one of those things that I really love seeing. I hate seeing a kid that's in ISS because that means that something has happened in that classroom. But I love seeing this instruction continuing on. And I've spoken with Katie a little bit at VSTE, and I can't wait to kind of look at ways that we can incorporate that into that homebound instruction that she mentioned. It's another great one that really I look forward to hearing how they do that in Prince William County. Another thing that I've really kind of taken a big kind of step with and role with is community outreach and getting involved with our community from our school division and from our schools. One of the best things that we've really done in the past couple of years has been some of our video projects that we do. For instance, our Read to Me program. We've taken a little bit of a break from that this year just to kind of refresh everything and get everything back up and going next year. But the past couple of years, we've had community readers and people all across really the state and the United States who've made a short video of themselves reading a story directed toward the students of Wise County Schools. And the whole purpose behind that was to provide a story read to the children every single week. So we could guarantee that Wise County Public Schools students had a story read to them at night once a week. And we had readers all the way, I mean, from our local school division teachers to our community members, our Commonwealth attorney, several other community leaders. and even some authors. The author of the book Bad Kitty read the very first Bad Kitty book that he wrote. And he directed and mentioned Wise County students in that video. And it was really touching to some of our students to recognize that, people are doing this for us. It's been one of those kind of great things that I've loved seeing the effects of that. We've also done several podcasts from our primary school. We call it the Primary Focus, and you can get it on iTunes. You can get it on the Google Podcasts and Spotify, pretty much any of those major podcasting services. But it's our family engagement coordinator, Mary Beth Masters, and I, and we interview people around the school, just asking them certain things about their job or certain things that are happening, or if there's a special event coming up, we've tried to interview them about that so that the community knows about the things that are going on in the school. And it just really kind of points toward my passion. I just want folks to be involved. I want folks to learn and continue to learn. And our students are really going to have that passion for learning when the entire community has that passion for learning. So that's kind of been my approach and my passion. And as far as coaching goes, it falls right into that. And that's my main, goal for coaching is building relationships, building those relationships with my teachers, with my administrators, with the students, to make me more effective. Because when folks know that I care about their effectiveness and their success, then that's when they'll care about what I know and what I can give to them to help them to improve. But the first thing they have to know is that I care. So that's really been my biggest, focus in coaching, even the past couple years, is getting into the classroom, building a relationship with my students, building a relationship with my teachers, and with my principals and with all staff members, so that folks know that I'm somebody that they can come to regardless of what the question is. There are no dumb questions. There are no bad needs as far as coaching goes. And we've really got to, if we want to be effective coaches, we've really got to present those good relationships with people.
Karen, you're muted.
See, I do it too. So great, thank you. So before I dive in, Patrick, Tim, my friend, comments, questions?
Patrick, why don't you go first?
I'm just happy that I caught the invite and jumped on tonight, because I am in awe of what these guys do, and happy to be counted among one of the other ed tech coaches out there. And if nothing else, everybody watching, get out there, follow people on Twitter, jump on the websites, and stay in tune with what these guys are doing, because there's great things that have happened already, but I'm very excited to see what else they have coming out too.
I've got a question for all three. It's kind of maybe outside the purview of your jobs or anything like this, but all of you talked about working with the community and extending beyond the school walls and everything. But we know that there's a lot of inequity as far as the connections that parents have at home, students have at home. Can you speak a little bit to what your school or your division might be doing? Because I know even in Northern Virginia, we have some inequity as far as who has access to the internet, who can go home and do their work at home, as opposed to who has to find a McDonald's somewhere, or who has to go to the library and stuff. So if you could just speak a little bit to that, that'd be kind of good. And I'll pick on Tonya first. How about that?
I don't have any stats per se, but if you go in, I work elementary, so it's different for middle and high. Middle and high, they're 1-to-1. In elementary, we're 2-1 for the most part. They don't take any devices home. They don't have homework that's assigned where they need a device when they go home. For the most part, when the teachers do surveys at the beginning of the year, the majority of the parents, as in 95 or more, has access to a smartphone. So they do have internet. Now, they don't, I wouldn't say they have a computer at home to use for homework, but that's elementary. We don't typically assign homework for students that is online. If it is, it's a website that's provided by the district, and they still have access to that website in school hours too. So middle and high, I couldn't tell you.
I'm doing it too. Is your division looking at pushing one-to-one down into the elementary schools, or is it just going to stay with middle and high?
Not anytime in the near future.
Okay.
Now, the schools that I work at, there's two that they have funded themselves out of their own instructional money and PTA to make third, fourth, and fifth 1-1. But that wasn't a district decision.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay. Katie, you want to go next?
Yeah, so I'm in Prince William County, and we have site-based management. So that means every school for themselves. But actually we have a new guy in charge of comms and tech, and it's a one-to-one, and digital equity is a big passion of his. So it is our division's hope, based on funding from the Board of Supervisors, the County Board of Supervisors, that we will be going one-to-one in the next 3 to 4 years totally. So I believe the idea is next year phasing in 6 schools as pilot schools, then the next year middle schools, then the next year high schools, and the next year elementary schools. So we're moving in that direction, definitely. My school, we have, I think, about 20 one-to-one classrooms at this point, not counting like business labs, but 20 one-to-one mobile device classrooms. And we're working on making more. So
Would you say the students in your school have good access to the internet outside, or?
I would say similar to what Tonya said, mobile devices, definitely not an issue, but having computers where they can necessarily type work for some is a problem.
And the kids don't type anything on their phones, right?
Oh, they can type all kinds of things on their phone.
I actually watched a student working on an essay on his phone one time.
Yeah, they will. I mean, in high school, they definitely will.
I was amazed at that.
Oh, they can type pretty quickly on those things. It's pretty great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Daniel,
or voice it, and then they can voice recognize it and have it typed. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've got a couple of apps that can actually recognize my voice and do a pretty good job of transcribing. So.
Yeah, and then they get to school when they do get to a computer and can do like the editing, and they can make it work. But we want to make it easier for them to make it work, obviously.
Yeah, definitely.
And they will be devices that will go home with the students in K through 12. I think it's actually 2nd through 12. I think K1 might be like one-to-one in classrooms, I think was the proposal. So.
Okay, sounds good. Daniel?
Well, we ended up going kind of the opposite of one-to-one in Wise County. We decided that rather than providing a device for every single student and doing each student assign a device, we do classroom sets of Chromebooks and iPads. We have iPads in every classroom from pre-K through 1st grade, and we are looking at expanding that a little bit more. We're not sure just how well the iPads will do in 2nd grade, so that's kind of a question that we're going through right now, whether or not we want to do that or just to upgrade the Chromebooks that we have there. From 2nd grade through 8th grade, we have Chromebooks in about every classroom, common like the main classrooms. Most of our elective classrooms, of course, and band stuff like that, we've not really pushed Chromebooks into. And at the high school level, we're about 95% of our core classrooms having the Chromebook carts in their classroom. And we've really focused more so on the infrastructure within our school division so that we have really good internet connection. We have really good bandwidth, as well as the ability to have multiple devices on our wireless network at one time, because that was it's been really one of the biggest things that we've heard other school divisions say is, yeah, we rolled out one-to-one and we put a device in every single student's class, in every single student's hands, and then the network couldn't handle it. So that has been Dr. Kaiser's biggest thing, is to build up our infrastructure, make sure that we are capable of handling that many devices. And we're at that point now where we have roughly 1,200 iPads, and I really couldn't tell you how many Chromebooks we have, because it's a huge number, and it's just amazing to see how that our technicians and my fellow ITRTs and I have really kind of just jumped in and helped to support those devices. As far as the actual community being on the internet and being able to access the internet from home, like kids from home, we're kind of in the same spot where we're not seeing a lot of teachers give homework that requires a device when they go home. If it's anything that they need to work on, a lot of times it's stuff that either, if it does require a device, they have multiple days to do it, so the kids who don't have devices at home can come in later on and work from the classroom. They can work on it during their free times in class, rather than having to just complete an assignment overnight on a device and turn it in. So our teachers are really getting very progressive with that, and I think it's very futuristic thinking. I think it's very forward thinking, the idea of giving them work that's going to model what they're going to be seeing in college. I never had a class in college where I was assigned work on Monday and it's due Tuesday morning. Typically we had work that would be due 3 or 4 days later. So that's the kind of model that our teachers are using when it comes to homework that is requiring a device. And we're seeing more and more students who really just kind of go out of the box, like Katie said. I mean, they're typing up their essays on devices that they have, like their mobile phones. You've got kids that are taking practice tests using an internet browser on their Nintendo Switch or their Xbox. I mean, they'll find whatever way that they can to get on the internet, they'll do it. So we're really seeing that happen. I don't have a number either as far as like stats of how many people have internet access at home. I do know it is above 70%. So we're reaching in that kind of that stable plateau of having a large number of our population having internet access at home. But one thing I did find out a couple years ago that was really nice was that one of our local internet providers, Comcast, actually provides $9 internet to anyone who has free and reduced lunch at our schools. So if a student qualifies for free or reduced lunch, they also qualify for a very cost-effective internet. So they're able to get internet if it's reachable at their house from Comcast, they can get it at a very reasonable rate, which is really nice because it allows more of our community to be connected. And we're seeing more and more of that connectivity happen. So each year, I think the number is growing as the number of households that have internet access at home and direct line access at home, rather than just relying upon a mobile device.
Excellent, because
Yeah,
some of your kids are out in the middle of almost nowhere, and so yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I think that program's called Comcast Everyone On. So if people are going to look for it, that's what it's called. Yeah.
And even up here, Cox Cable and is also involved in that. So. Excellent. Karen, what questions do you have?
Well, the comment I was going to make is, in terms of that, certainly Governor Northam has made rural broadband access a centerpiece, a fair amount of money in the budget for it. I was able to attend, I live out in the country, as some of you know, and so I was actually able to attend an event last week that included Evan Feinman, who's the governor's broadband guru, as it were, and interesting things are going on. I had talked to a group earlier today about electric cooperatives becoming also then internet providers. So if you're outside the sort of Dominion power, but you have one of the local electric cooperatives, they're looking for ways to become internet service providers to your students, to their homes. And so I think, you know, for schools, it's hard because you're not responsible for wiring everybody in. Certainly everyone in the community having access makes life better for everyone. And it is an equity issue. Because I live in the country, it's become kind of an issue for me as well. So it's good to hear that you've found ways of navigating that, and also getting the word out. I think one of the issues we found with Comcast and Cox was that they have these programs, but no one's officially responsible for letting people know about them. And so it's kind of like they're there, but you kind of have to go out and look for them. So if school divisions can become the conduits who say to families as part of your community outreach, you know, this is available to you. Comcast may even have really low cost, or maybe it's Cox. One of them offers even low cost refurbished laptops, potentially for families as well, if they don't have the devices that they need as well, to be able to connect. So, and certainly as you're all mentioning, doing that community outreach to make sure that people are able to connect to your schools as well. You probably all have management systems that parents can tap into, and so on and so forth. And, you know, Tim, I didn't mean to get on any kind of soapbox about this, and I really did have a question I've on it as it goes, but
and you
I'll
can
think
see the
about it.
result of Karen not having.
Good, right? I'm unstable according to my internet access, so.
Oh, well, go ahead.
I'm working on it. So comments, Patrick, Tim, comments amongst yourselves, my coach friends. You all come from very interesting, different school divisions, very urban, Prince William County, Augusta. I think you're in the kind of urban, suburban, and then Daniel, of course, Virginia. What do you think's your biggest challenge for technology integration?
For me at my school, it is access for teachers. So like I said, we have about 21 classrooms, but that's of 160 teachers. So that's still, you know, quite a few classrooms that don't have consistent technology access in them. And therefore, you know, those teachers are less inclined to want to, you know, check out a cart, because we do still have other carts. So they're less inclined when they don't have that consistent access to the technology.
For me, the biggest issue, I guess, we have technology. Like I said, we're one-to-one in grades 3 through 5. Now it comes down to the intentional use of the technology. Using it for, like Katie said, to create, to problem solve, to collaborate, to teach those profile graduate, those 5 C's. We have the technology, but now we're kind of like, okay, what do we do with it? Do I just put them on there for drill and kill? We have all these great websites, but again, all it is drill and kill. It's that intentional, that purposeful, the meaningful use of the technology is where we're at, or where I would like to be and work on and focus on.
I'll echo the same thing. I think that our number one challenge, I mean, we're in a very good place when it comes to technology. We just installed smart panels in about every single classroom from pre-K through 8th grade, and we're looking at putting them in our high schools as well, putting actual Prometheum panels in our high schools. And like I said, we're doing great with devices. Our Chromebook labs and our iPad labs are really taken off. We've had some great things that have happened with our teachers. I think the big challenge that we've got right now is getting those connections between the teachers who are doing great and the teachers who just need a few ideas. And so that's kind of what we're going to be working on over this next year, is finding ways that we can get the teachers who have found awesome things that they can do with their Chromebooks or with their iPads or with their smart panels, with their Promethean boards, and getting those connections and those relationships made with the teachers who need those ideas and who may not be using those technologies as effectively and as fluently in their classrooms. And I think really just getting those awesome ideas for use in the classroom is one of the biggest struggles for a technology coach of, okay, we've got all of this awesome technology. Now, what are some awesome things we can do with it, and some out of the box uses that we can get our students more prepared? Because when it comes down to it, I mean, the number one thing we're trying to do is prepare students that they can learn how to learn. So when they go off to college, when they go off to the workforce, that they have the skill sets that we have given them, whether it's through technology, whether it's through just the curriculum that we provide to them, that they're able to take those tools and use them for the rest of their lives. Chromebooks are not going to be around all the time. iPads are not going to be around all the time. I mean, in 20 years, we're going to look back and think, wow, we had iPads. How old is that? But one thing that we won't look back on and say is, I hate that I learned that skill, because those skills that we're teaching them, that we're trying to get them to learn, those are what's going to last for a lifetime. It doesn't matter what device it is. It doesn't matter what new technology it is that comes out. If you have the ability to learn how to learn, I think that's really going to be our number one kind of achievement as an educational institution.
That's really well said. I think that goes right to one of the points I was going to make, of just increasing kind of efficacy across the board, and that confidence both with our teachers to teach with it and be willing to put themselves out there even if they don't necessarily know it, and let the kids teach them, but also on the side of the kids to increase that feeling like, I not only know how to use this for like fun and games, but I know how to use this to really create something meaningful within the education side of things, and then being comfortable to share it out too. A lot of our teachers are doing great things, but they're not necessarily comfortable putting it out there and sharing it kind of out to even our district audience. Going to one thing that Daniel said there, of just getting those ideas out within our realm, but then sharing them out even outside of that, and being comfortable launching things out on Twitter. And then for me, another thing comes back to just time to get in and train with teachers, time to meet with teachers. We have an easier time at the elementary and the middle school because a lot of them will have some common plannings, but then once we hit the high school side, everybody's all over the place, schedules are everywhere, and just getting that consistent time to meet with people and not only get them the tools, but maybe be the conduit that shares those great ideas and helps them bring them into their classrooms and make them happen.
Yeah, I agree. The time in the high school is super hard. What I found, and I tried this year, and it's really worked well, is I created 4 ideas of things that I could come in and do with your kids. Like, so we don't have to meet beforehand. We don't have to meet after, like, because the time is so precious to those teachers. They just don't have enough of it. I'm just going to come in and do it, like 30 minutes, 45 minutes of your class. You'll get to like learn along with your students how to use that tool. And then, you know, maybe you'll use it again. And maybe then you'll think, oh, I really do have time. I want to learn more about this. And they'll come meet with me. So I had four things in the fall, and then a new menu in the spring. And I just put them in the bathroom stalls. And I got so many emails and so many invitations to come to class. It's really, really worked well with the high school teachers that I work with.
So give us an example of one of the things that you offered.
I'm going to come teach your class how to do podcasting with Anchor. I'm going to come teach your class how to make a graphic with Canva. I'm going to come teach your class how to make a book with Google Slides. Like, just very, like, they could go into any content really. Like, you know, you're going to tell me what you're teaching that day and what you want it to be connected to, and we're just going to make it happen.
Okay, lots of silence there.
So I remembered my senior moment question. I'm not sure how much you guys follow General Assembly, because as you pointed out, you're in schools and pretty busy, and they're at Capitol Hill doing their thing. But new legislation has just passed at the state level. It started out as HB 817, and it's basically directing the Department of Education and the Department of Health and Human Services to develop guidelines around device usage. Specifically, screen time, we hear a lot about that, but also just sort of there's this concern that kids are spending their whole day in front of screens. Are you seeing that kind of concern in your communities? Are people pushing back when you're, one-to-one, even if kids aren't taking the devices home? And how are you finding that balance of a kid's not, and I come at this knowing that it's more complex than we sometimes make it in our headlines, that there's a big difference between a kid who's just spent an hour kind of staring at a drill and skill kind of thing versus a kid who spent an hour making a video with an iPad. There's a difference there, but I'm not sure the public always understands that difference. So what are you seeing around concerns with screen time and what kids are doing with technologies? Are you getting any pushback or that sort of thing?
I've definitely had a few folks who have asked me, is there a concern? Are you not concerned about kids being on? Because we've got iPads in pre-K through first grade, and are you not concerned about these kids being on the devices? And I point them to the fact that I'm actually going to just go ahead and say here, there are two different types of screen time that we don't mention. There is passive screen time and there's active screen time. And the truth is there is absolutely zero research that shows that active screen time has a negative effect. It's passive screen time that we always hear about. It's sitting and watching videos. It's watching Disney Plus on your iPad for 13 hours straight, binge watching whatever. Yeah, that's not healthy for us. That's not effective teaching. That's not effective learning. But active screen time has actually proven to help students in development of skills. I mean, you look at the whole arena of esports now. We're promoting students to get on an Xbox or Nintendo or a PlayStation or a computer and play video games against one another as a sport. And they are developing skills in teamwork. They're developing skills in communication. And these skills that they're developing through active screen time are going to benefit them for the rest of their lives. So I think that's the big thing that with any of the legislation that's going through with General Assembly, that we have to keep in mind is that, yes, there is negative research towards screen time, but everything is for that passive screen time. It's not for the active learning and active engagement. And that's big. Probably my biggest fear is that we have folks who have lumped it all into one place and say, oh, screen time is bad. Being on a device is bad. When in fact, they are typing up those reports that are saying screen time is bad on a device and have probably spent 8 to 10 hours that day researching the statistics they need using screen time. So I think that's the big thing is we've really got to start separating what is active screen time and what's passive screen time when we start mentioning these types of these things, whether it's General Assembly or community.
I go in. I'm sorry. Sorry, Katie. I go in with the thought, when a teacher comes to me, she's like, come and share a lesson with me. I'm like, okay, what are you working on? I always want to start with the learning objective, the learning intention. From there, then we can discuss how technology can enhance that lesson. It doesn't even need to be technology. I've been doing a lot of unplugged lessons this year with my teachers, showing them that I can teach a computer science standard without any device. And the kids love it. It's hands-on. It's very concrete. It's not that I'm against technology. Obviously, I'm a technology coach, but it shows them that it's just a tool that can enhance the learning. So typically I begin with the unplugged, show them, hey, this is computer science. This is what you can do. Doesn't require a device, but hey, this is what we can do when we do have a device. I can go a little bit deeper into it, and they can see you take that concrete and they can then move into the abstract phase of the computer science content, whatever I'm teaching.
Yeah, I currently, in high school, I don't have a lot of problem with hearing from parents about screen time. I think, most of our students by now, they have their own phone, they have their own screen. So they're probably just managing their home screen time. And again, we're not one-to-one, but I am curious as to how that conversation might change when we do move one-to-one. And there are more, more teachers than able to just, do some bad teaching by just loading, hey, watch a video into the classroom, the Google, the learning management system. So hopefully by continually showing them options to have students be creating and doing more innovative things with technology in the next few years before we get there, that won't be such a problem.
Well, for now, the legislation just asks the Department of Education and the Health and Human Services to sort of look at research and develop some guidelines. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that. I don't remember anyone ever passing legislation to say I couldn't spend more than 6 hours a day staring at a textbook, and I don't think that was particularly good for me, but
Has anybody, I wonder if anybody's asked.
but television was certainly a concern. Yes, Tim Stom?
I was just going to say, I wonder if anybody's asked members of the General Assembly how much time they spend on their screens.
And I find that piece is the very fascinating part, that somehow we as grown-ups have mastered our access to screens as well, right? I'm always amazed when that little reminder comes up at the end of the week. Your screen time was up 15% or down 15%, and you just don't think about how much time you're spending with that device in front of you.
And I was just remembering the last time I was in one of the congressional office buildings, and everybody, not just the legislators, but all the aides and everybody else are walking down the hall with their, phone in front of them. Anyway, moving on.
It's how the world works, though, and I have to be honest with you. I work from home. I'm on my laptop multiple hours out of the day. It's how I communicate with people. It's how we do events like this. It's how it really is a large part of my day, and moderating, it's become an issue that I have to deal with as well. But hopefully as we become better at it, we can help our students become better at it as well, that there are times when maybe you need to walk away or on and so forth.
I love Daniel's distinction between active and passive, because that is a critical piece of the information. If students are playing games on their machines over and over and over again, it's not necessarily anything that's going to benefit them.
Right, exactly. Well, I would like to thank all of you for taking the time this evening to chat with us and give us some ideas of what's going on in your schools and the kinds of issues that you're facing. Patrick, Tim, any last comments, questions? And then I'll throw it open to my coaches for last comments or questions.
I was just going to launch one thing out because I know I am curious and other people might be. If you guys want to share another project or two that maybe you're actively working on with teachers, and maybe some things you're doing now that you want to kind of give some people a shout out, and maybe not necessarily the tools or the tech itself, but kind of some more of the great things you guys have going on.
Yeah, so we actually found out just a couple weeks ago we're going to have Tuesday off, Super Tuesday. So a virtual work day is what it's being called. So on the fly, I and a couple other coaches in my district made a Flipgrid, and we've had a lot of coaches and librarians and school psychologists and principals contribute like a short 5-minute PD. So it's going to be a PD in your pajamas day. And so we're excited about that taking off.
Daniel, you want to go next?
Sure, yeah. So, well, I mean, one of the big things that I really am excited about, we've got a couple new little technologies that are actually older technologies. Folks have been using them a lot, but we've recently, as a school division, purchased into them to the actual site licensing. And one of those is Cami, the extension for Google Chrome. And really loving what that offers for our teachers and for our students, the ability to annotate. And so we're starting to see more and more use of that across our school division, and getting the training materials out and getting some of the ideas for those uses out into our teachers' hands is really going to be awesome, and I'm looking forward to that. One of the things that I really always look forward to is the end of our school year. We do our Google Educator boot camp, so that's coming up again in May this year. So we're going to be yet again having a group of teachers come up to our central office. We're going to take 3 hours to really go through the skills that they've learned in their exploration of our Google G Suite for Education. And then we've paid for their test to be able to become Google certified educators. So we try to do that every year, and that's coming up on us. So it's always something I'm excited about, is seeing more and more teachers who are getting those certifications that, yeah, they may not mean much to like our licensure or whatever, but it does mean a lot when we can have our teachers who are Apple certified, who are Google certified, and to be able to tout that and say, yeah, we've got our teachers run through these courses and are learning the tools that they have available to them.
Hey, I'll just hop in real quick. I never took the test. I don't know. I was test averse to the Google level 1 certification, but I will say that the mail part of that was more powerful than anything I've ever done. I learned more about my Gmail and how to manipulate it and that kind of thing. So yeah, I think those, whether you get the certification or not, and it doesn't count for anything or that kind of thing. But I learned a lot. It was pretty good stuff, and I felt like I really was kind of a guru and expert. So it's cool that you guys are still doing that. Sorry.
All right. I spoke about this when I introduced myself. Is the newest pilot is called Connecting the Classroom. Basically, I've reached out to K-5 teachers and made a slideshow of the 15 different jobs that they can go and interview for in Augusta County. So I'm working with a small group, and I called them my beta testers. We started it today, and they looked at the slides. They had to come up with 10 questions, and in 2 weeks from now, we'll have a Google Hangout, and they'll be able to ask their questions, and the interviewee is only able to say yes or no until the 10th question, and then the kids get to guess if they got the job right or not. So seeing that it takes more than just the teacher to teach them, that it takes a village, it takes a community of different skilled people in knowledge, a nurse, a social worker. And it was amazing that I was sitting there talking with the kids that they didn't have a clue. They didn't know that we were 10,500 students or that we had 17 schools. So just opening their eyes, and I'm hoping that I get the teachers excited in doing this so that they're getting familiar with the technology of Google Hangout, that they're connecting their classrooms. It's not just their 4 walls, that there's so many other more resources out there that they can really dive into and share with their students.
That's
Very
great.
good. We are at about 5 minutes left. So Karen, what do you want to do?
I'm going to make a final thoughtful comment here that And I think Tim Stommer, I think you and I are, we're towards the end of our careers, or
Oh, bite your
we've,
tongue. I'm still working.
no, you're right, and I am too. But I think we have finally gotten to the point where you all are doing amazing things within some really unbelievable confines. That school only goes from 8 to 3:30, and classes are 45 minutes unless you're in a block schedule, but then you really still have the same amount of time. It's just all shoved into one semester. I mean, we're dealing with a world that doesn't live like that, and yet that's the kind of schooling that you're working with, and you're trying to integrate these technologies. Like, I just feel your frustration sometime that when are we going to get to the point where we realize that we need to push outside these limits of the school? And I think the fact that all of you mentioned communities, and Katie, you're focused on kids who can't function in a regular school day. Their health doesn't allow them to do that, or kids who do need to be thinking about what their job's going to be, and so sitting in school from 8 to 3 doesn't make sense for them because they could be learning what they needed to do through an online certification course. So I think we really have reached what I believe is the limits of what we can do within the confines of the school day. Does that make sense? And if technology is really going to finally make a difference here, we've got to break out of that brick and mortar 8 to 3. The school bus picks everybody up and drops them off at the front door at the same time. Everybody learns the same thing at the same time, kind of thing. I feel like we're at that tipping point now, that if we're really going to take advantage of these technologies, we need to get past those old strictures. Does that make sense? I don't think you disagree with me, Tim Stommer. We got to change
Well,
the
I think
fundamental structure of school.
that's where I'm coming from too, is because a lot of what I've seen in technology over the years is that it's used to replicate what we always do. And I'm a big advocate for seeing the technology put in the hands of the students and let them have some control over it and make some decisions as to how they're going to use it and why they're going to use it and what they're going to use it for.
So I'm thrilled by what you all are doing, and you're pushing the envelopes within a system. And I think we'll continue to push those envelopes, hopefully to the point where we can help the system fit with the technologies and the possibilities for your students. But I'd like to say for now, on behalf of your students in your community, thank you for the work that you're doing and the innovation that you're leading and the way you're trying to bring all those stakeholders together, because I think you've got the ideas with you, and I really think things go in cycles, and maybe we're really seeing the potential impacts for these kinds of technologies. So
And this
I
probably
think I'm going to take,
well,
yes,
this
Tim
probably goes
Stommer.
without saying, but we hope all of you will bring some of those ideas to the beach in next December and share them with everybody in the state. So.
Yep, we're rolling out. And technology conference, I should know the dates. I'm going to say 6th, 7th, and 8th coming up in
That
December
sounds
at the
about right.
beach. Does that sound about right? I think I got it right, folks. So anyway, thank you so much for your service. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. We'll get the recordings up as you go along, but best wishes to all of you, and have a great rest of the semester.